How do you make sure you've covered everything you need to before an IB exam? You've read your textbook, practiced past papers, you've revised a ton, but how can you be truly sure that you haven't forgot to study anything, that you've covered everything you need to? It's very simple. Go to Google and type IB subject guide. In this case, I've used economics, and I'm sure some IB school somewhere has uploaded it to the internet without realizing it's available to the public. And you'll find a document like this. This is an IB subject guide, and what you want to do is scroll down to the point where it says syllabus content, and that should be right over here. This is a list of everything that you could be tested on in your exam. These are syllabus statements, statements that outline everything that needs to be taught in your course and the depth it needs to be covered in. These statements are how the authors of your IB textbook decide what to write. They're the same statements that the creators of your IB exam refer to when making questions. You can't, and this is very important, you can't be tested on anything that aren't in these statements. So, but if you know your syllabus statements, potentially you know what could come for your exam. Now, to make sure you've covered everything, it's very simple. All you have to do is, as you're going through this list, anytime you come across a syllabus statement that you aren't totally confident in, that you aren't totally sure of, highlight it. And as you highlight through this list, you'll identify exactly the areas you need to work on in the course. And once you're done with that, it's super simple. Study the things you've highlighted. Every time you come across a highlighted statement, go to your textbook, your notes, your YouTube videos, learn about that statement until you're completely confident with it. Then unhighlight it. And you do this for the whole list. And your goal is to highlight every single syllabus statement you don't know, and then go through all of them, learn them so well that you unhighlight all of them, leading you to a highlighter-free subject guide. Here's why this is especially important. Textbooks aren't made by the IB. You can't totally rely on a textbook, and this is something I need to get my head around for a long time when I just started the course. The reason I use almost 2 textbooks for most of my subjects is because I found out that my primary textbook didn't cover all the syllabus statements of the subjects, or at least didn't cover them in the way the IB subject guide wanted. You see, the IB doesn't write textbooks. Yeah, Oxford may claim that their textbooks are endorsed by the IB, but their textbooks don't cover everything. No textbook does, because they're all written by other people. And I'll give you an example of this. My friends in school didn't learn about this specific topic in economics called automatic stabilizers because it was covered very briefly in the Oxford textbook. And the only reason I learned about it is because I looked at the syllabus statement and I'm like, hey, I don't even know what automatic stabilizers are. So I learned it from YouTube and the other textbook by Alicia Gakes. In our final exam, the IB exam, a full question on automatic stabilizers came out that my friends couldn't answer, but I could. And I'll tell you, I nailed that question, because if you had even a decent idea of automatic stabilizers, you could answer that question well. So the only reason I could do that is because I checked the syllabus statements, I checked what I need to know. And the only way to make sure you've covered everything is to check it from the source itself, which is the syllabus statements. It saves you time. My teachers would often give me handouts and notes that were supposed to help me learn the subject. However, I found out that I didn't need to know half of these things because they weren't specified in the IB subject guide. So you can imagine how much time all of us spend learning things that we don't need to know. This isn't only notes. The Oxford economics textbook covered all 3 degrees of price discrimination when you only need to know the diagram of the 3rd form. People waste a lot of time learning things they don't need to. And I'm not surprised if you find out that you've been doing this as well. Whether it's from a textbook, your notes, your teachers, the only way to avoid this is to check from the source itself. Effective past paper practice. If your subject has recently gone through a syllabus change, the older past papers would be based on the old syllabus, not the new one, right? So you may open up an old paper and find a question on a topic that you've never come across, and you'll be like, what in the world is this, right? You start panicking. And this happened to me, and I crash learned topics just in case, just because they were in the old past papers. Or maybe your syllabus has new questions that weren't in the old past papers, and you don't practice them because they weren't in the old past papers. So you need to look at the subject guide to know exactly what type of questions you need to learn. It leads to much more effective learning. So to recap, before any test, make sure you've gone through the subject guide and you can explain every one of those statements confidently. And I can guarantee this will help you be much more confident when you're taking your exam, when you know there's almost nothing in this test and the final IB exam that can surprise you. Hope that helped. Follow me on @iblikecole for quick replies on any IB question you may have. Have fun. Take care.